Welcome to Pixel Theater, everyone. I am one of your hosts, Nick Noel, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host over there.
Riddle me this. It's me. Hi, Ron.
Yeah, Ron the Riddler Stratton. And today on Pixel Theater, we are going to be talking about Assault on Arkham. You may have two questions in your head right now. One, what is Pixel Theater? Well, it's a podcast. It's a podcast about film adaptations of video games. It's also a YouTube series, so you can watch our amazing visages on any screen. I would suggest a small screen for me. I think the large screens are not a friend to this here mug right here. And then it's also, a sports energy drink. Sure, why not? Step into Pixel Theater. That's a cross-reference that doesn't make any sense. I think it was because Macho Man Savage, Randy Savage, sponsored or was the spokesman for Slim Jims, and then I thought, he's a wrestler, he probably drank Gatorade, right? My wires got crossed as well.
No, and he fought Spider-Man, which is a comic book character.
He did fight Spider-Man. That is so true.
Here in Posteen can add some kind of Photoshop energy drink to my hands. Oh, yeah.
There it is.
Bonesaw is ready.
I'm glad that off the top we're giving Dane a task. Oh, that's nice. Oh, Dane, I miss you. I miss you every day. Anyway, but also your second question, what's Assault on Arkham? I want to say Attack on Arkham every time, but it's
That's
not.
a different
Assault
franchise.
on Arkham. So essentially all you need to do is that for this movie, one, it's within the Arkham timeline of the DC universe, which is apparently a thing. And also it takes place before the Arkham Asylum Batman video game. So it is loosely tied to that game series, and it's also, as far as I know, the only movie in that series, pretty much. And so that's why we decided to do it. Yeah. So it is the tenuous of grasps on our premise, but we're going with it anyway because I don't know, we wanted to watch a Batman movie, and we didn't have any other options. So that's what our show is. And I think we should head into our first segment and mosey on over to the lobby.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
So I wanted to first ask you, before we get into what we've been doing, what were your expectations going into this film? Let's just pretend, it's 1993. We're hanging out at the old AMC. An X-Men console or arcade cabinet is off in the corner. What do you think about this film going into it?
This film? Well, that would be 21 years later.
Yeah. So let's okay.
Yeah.
So also, I forgot to mention, in this scenario, we can see the future.
Oh, okay.
So we are going into what, Jurassic Park? I guess. When did that come out? Was that 93,
94,
or 96? I don't remember. So anyway, we are omnipresent and omnipotent beings, and the only thing we talk about is direct-to-video DC releases and what we think about them. So what do you think about this film?
If I could, I would warn David Ayer about his adaptation of Suicide Squad. They're going to rip that baby right from your hands, man. Well, 90% of the time, and I use that equation wrongly all the time, but a majority of DC animated films, I think, hit a sweet spot. I think they're all pretty much critically received all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the storyline that they come up with for this has a lot of potential. And it's just neat to see Batman fight people escaping from Arkham Asylum. I just think that's always a good time. So I'd be excited about it. Does my omniscient, do I already know the outcome, or do I just know this film's
No, this is purely, are you anticipating? So we extend our future sight into the anticipation of the film, but we don't put spoilers for ourselves.
Oh, gotcha. Well, it's really funny because I didn't even know this movie was a thing. This is me talking until we were talking about what we could watch. And I still had to clarify it like twice. Like, wait, what are we watching again? Because this was 2014 and just like way over my head. I didn't even catch this release being a thing.
How old is your daughter?
She's 7.
So
I was preoccupied that summer. How do you say that? It's like, there's a reason this movie doesn't exist in my head. Because like I had no, because like July 2014, I was kind of busy.
Yeah, probably not sense. Trotting, what would have been like Gawker at the time or something.
I gotta watch Comic-Con.
Not scrolling through Kotaku to see, what the newest release is.
What baby's crying? Oh, it's my baby.
Oh shit, that's a thing now.
Yeah.
Oh no. I also didn't know this movie was a thing, and I have no excuse except that I think most people don't know it exists. But I don't know. I even after I found it and picked it and talked about it, I still thought it was a direct adaptation of Batman Arkham Asylum until I started watching it.
I did too, honestly. Yeah. I thought it was at least more tied into the original trilogy of games than it was, and it still is. But
it's very much a loose adaptation, and really, I think trying to kind of capture a little bit of like DC Suicide Squad essence. I don't. I mean, I know Suicide Squad came out a lot later, but there was kind of in the zeitgeist a little bit that group. But enough of this film.
Yeah.
What else you been doing, Ron? What's one thing that you think is cool that you did in the last week?
Wow.
Or two.
Well, I'm very much enjoying Loki. I'm really into that. It's hitting all the right notes for me. So I've been. It kind of throws off my routine because like Friday mornings, I generally up very early. And it was just kind of cool to get up at like 6 a.m. and pour cereal and watch the new Marvel show. And they've kind of adjusted their whole schedule to Wednesdays. And Wednesdays, I'm all over the place. And I don't tend to watch until very late at night. So I'm a little bummed because I liked having my early morning stories to look forward to. But that being said, it's been fun. Like Winter Soldier and Falcon Falcon and Winter Soldier never had that water cooler moment that like WandaVision kind of thrived on, and this is kind of a return to that. A lot of people at work I talk to about like what the hell is this show? And it scratches this itch that I enjoy of like bizarro sci-fi like Doctor Who, or like it's even got kind of a sliders element because they're just popping all over these scenarios. And I don't know, I'm really digging it. So I've been caught up in that.
I like it because it expands the universe while still being able to be, at least so far, self-contained, like existing outside of it. So it is both expansive, but then not beholden to. So I think that's kind of cool.
It's not beholden to, and I've got a nice feeling of, there was such an epic scope to the Infinity Stones. And by the second episode, this kind of addressed there's bigger worlds out there than these physical elements, and now you're getting into time and the potential of King the Conqueror, and all of a sudden I've got like a blueprint, even though this is a self-contained show, of where they can go with the next phase. And it's really exciting because you've got the Eternals and you've got all these bigger than the cosmos elements. So it's interesting to see time become something that's going to be probably a huge component of every movie, and the multiverse, especially factoring so big in the Spider-Man and Doctor Strange. And the Loki showrunner wrote the script for Doctor Strange, and that's going to be the next big cinematic door opening for this. So I think it's in good hand. I mean, Marvel can't screw up. Whether or not we've got fatigue, I still blame myself for saying, boy, I just want like a 1.5-year break from Marvel movies. I didn't mean a global pandemic. I just wanted a break from spectacle.
And somewhere in your desk drawer, the monkey's paw's finger went down. So just briefly, I don't think I've mentioned this because it's been a while since we've recorded one of these, not to pull the veil back too far for our audience, but I started reading Swamp Thing by Alan Moore. This is people can tell what this is even though it's backwards, and I don't know, I'm really digging it. I'm digging it more than I thought I was going to. I started reading it because I wanted to start reading Hellblazer, and I'm a completist, and so they're like, well, really, John Constantine shows up in Swamp Thing, so if you want to see where he comes from, you should read that. And I was like, well, fuck, I guess I got to read Swamp Thing then. So I'm reading that, and it's actually quite good. I don't know why I didn't expect it to be because it's Alan Moore, but I don't know. I guess my only memory of Swamp Thing are the cheesy like Sci-Fi Channel movies, and then the um late or early 90s cartoon where Swamp Thing is, I don't know, battling a bunch of kind of like, he's like Captain Planet but in the swamp, so it's weird. But we should wrap up. We're taking up too much of our own valuable time. So let's grab our quarters and walk on over to the arcade. So this is where we talk about the games and we get into the real nitty gritty.
Yeah.
So finally, I know I've been waiting to talk about just any reason to talk about the Batman Arkham games, because they're probably, I mean, some of the best games ever made. I don't know.
They're
Ron,
fantastic,
what are your feelings
man.
about it?
So there's a whole trilogy, and I might be in the minority, but the first one sticks out to me the most, even though it's the smallest in scale, I guess. I think we talked about this with certain games like Horizon Zero Dawn and whatnot, but Arkham Asylum, like when that came out, I don't know if we were a few years into the consoles, but there was such a next evolution of a game. Like I loved how big the characters were on screen. Like the way the camera hung over Batman's shoulder, and like it was like a generational leap, kind of like what Resident Evil 4 did for the Resident Evil series, for the action series. I mean, it was such a well-told Batman story. You had Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill doing the voices. The production values are top-notch, but on a gameplay front, it just was so good to feel like Batman. Like the combat was revolutionary, and most third-person games ape that as much as they can going forward. I mean, then technically, if you can go back to the game I think I mentioned before, Mark of Kree, like that kind of had this like 360 sense of combat that no game had done before. But this really, the gameplay of punching these guys was so good. Like there was these little mini games where you just like, how many waves could you fight? And I think I played that more than the game, despite the game being a 10 out of 10 for me. But it upped the ante in AI, like the defense, like you're knocking these guys out, so they get armor, and they are better at watching for you coming up from above. And but you've got so many gadgets. This is great. I could go on forever. It's awesome.
I think it did do a really good job of providing so much player like agency and choice in the kind of game, in the way you wanted to approach it, because they designed each room, and then they gave you different enemies to fight, and then those enemies would change in terms of their how you would approach them, and you'd get different gadgets. And so like each new combat scenario was like a little mini puzzle, kind of like, how do I approach this? And then each boss fight was also another puzzle. I was thinking about Arkham City and fighting Mr. Freeze, which, I mean, it should be Dr. Freeze, shouldn't it? I don't understand why it's Mr. Freeze, but
I don't know, kind of disrespectful, but
yeah, a little
trying
bit.
to kill everybody.
He earned that PhD. Is all I'm
He
saying.
did.
But how like you have to like come up with different ways to attack him, because he adapts to one method each time. And as we've talked about, my nervous system is fraught, let's say, and I legitimately found fighting Mr. Freeze to be kind of stressful and little scary, because he's like raging at you and like can come from anywhere, and like you're not exactly sure how to fight him. So I thought that was really cool. And the only other point I wanted to make, though, was I think these were the first games where it felt like you were playing the character, except for those, like that PS2 Spider-Man game and then subsequent Spider-Man games.
Sure.
Like,
Spider-Man's nailed it pretty good, because I played that version on the Xbox, and my God, that was such a great game. That and the PS4 one. But the PS4 Spider-Man, it takes so much of what's good about it comes from these Arkham games, I think, or at least they learned.
They're kind of like playing off each other.
Yeah. I can't say one's better than the other in terms of mechanics. It's just Spider-Man's newer, more refined, and But yeah, I don't know. It's just really good. I can't think of much I would change. It's nice that with each subsequent game, it opened up, Arkham City, and then I don't know what did you think about just the Batmobile mechanics in the third one? I mean, is that
So, truth time, I've never actually played the third one. I did hear that people didn't like the Batmobile mechanics, though. As I remember
didn't
reading
mind
about it,
it.
and I don't know.
But again, like the bigger the games got, the less engaging they were to me, if that makes sense. There's something claustrophobic, and things just hit home. Like I just love the wear and tear Bruce goes through in the first game. I mean, they all do that, but it's just like you're just by the time you're done, you look like you've been shot with a shotgun, and like you feel the weariness that he went through in that whole game. And I remember it being a pretty decent campaign as far as like length. I don't know, 11, 12 hours. But I really thought that was good.
The thing I liked about Arkham City was how there were like just it was how huge it was. There's so many like side missions you could do. um so it did like those like Spider-Man games like feel like you can like wander around a whole city and kind of engage with the environment in that way. But I do see your point, and I guess I kind of agree that like the game doesn't make sense when you're given infinite time and kind of the ability to like go anywhere within some confines, because even in Arkham City he's eventually on a time clock, sort of.
Yeah.
The time clock only sets in when you're playing the missions, so like any other time he's just like normal Batman, like fighting guys even though he is dying of poison. And I think also, like, I remember thinking, like, okay, he's gonna fight the Joker in Arkham City. Okay, I guess it makes sense that Two-Face is there. Okay, Catwoman, yeah, she would probably be around. Yeah. And then it's like Ra's al Ghul is here too. Like, what?
I know.
Like, can't this be the third one? Do I have to fight him too? Like,
yeah,
it's weird.
Yeah, I was trying to think of what other examples of that, but again, just a great series. I'm not familiar with the side scroller that this movie ties into, because that's technically the first in the series, which is cool that it was so different, but it was a prequel to these three games, and this movie we watched is 2 years after the events of that game. So that's cool, but I'm not familiar with it. I think it was an Xbox Live Arcade thing. I don't know if it was Live Arcade at the time or what, but yeah, I didn't play it. So
there's a I wanted to ask you this because we've talked about the Arkham games. We've got a couple more minutes here. If there is anything else you want to say about them, we can extend it a little bit. But
I was gonna say I'd love to get a remaster, but we don't really need it. They did kind of a like not re-release, but like I've been playing. I played through them again recently, or at least the first two on the Series X, and I don't think it's got like necessarily Series X improvements, but it looked gorgeous. Like for a game that's, how long? When did that first one come out?
Arkham Asylum, God,
2009,
like, something like that. Yeah, yeah.
I'll consult
is that
the
game
internet.
really like over a decade old?
I think so, man.
Oh goodness, that's time flies.
I'm full of shit. The comment section was already it's 2015. Feels longer ago than that. Was it 2009? Am I looking at the wrong one? 2015. Yeah, Arkham, the third one was 2015. Yeah, so
yeah,
our illustrious producer jumped in and yeah, that is right. Arkham City was 2011. So yeah, those games are God. The second one was 10 years ago.
Like I just replayed Arkham City like last year because I'd never finished the campaign, so I just started it all over.
Doesn't look like a 10-year-old game, does it?
No, it's still great, like just fantastic. Man, they really got the most out of that 360 hardware that they could,
They were pushing it, man. I really do think that was just like, it's funny, the games that are like, oh wow, this is next gen, but like not near a time where for the PS4, like they just one after another, like that God of War game looked like what a PS5 game should have looked like at the time. Like I just couldn't believe
that PS5 games kind of look like PS3 games now. So
hit or miss, yeah. They're finally coming out with some like, oh, that's not possible, but it's not even like a fidelity thing. It's just like, wow, that's a lot of shit on screen. Like Ratchet and Clank has all the particles, and that's kind of fun. But yeah, nothing really like this when I think of like, oh my god, look at the water like in Ocarina of Time. This is one of those games. Like I can't believe how big my character is on screen and how fluid it is. And holy shit, I am Batman when I'm fighting. This is so cool.
Can I
Like
yeah.
it wasn't even so much like beating the game. It was like you had to look cool while you were fighting people. Sorry, go ahead. You're gonna ask me something.
I don't know. Like I know there are people who are so good at those like fighting mechanics and the like timing. I've always been trash at that, and I've always just like it was like go and fight people. Like time to immediately deploy my grappler and get the hell out of here, or else I will be beaten up by these band of street toughs. So I wanted to ask you, do you remember what your first kind of Batman game was?
Oh, 100%. I still play it. Charlotte adored this, actually. It was the 1989 Michael Keaton Batman for the NES. And I love playing that game. It's great. I don't think I ever got past like the third level on it because it's hard as shit, but it's really fun.
That I can't remember if that may have been mine, or there may have been like a Batman Returns on the Genesis, maybe.
I was good too.
I remember playing that a lot, and the main thing I remember, and maybe this is gonna sound dumb, but like the ability to like jump on a wall and then jump over to a wall and then like up in like that mechanic that how Batman would like climb up.
It has.
I don't know why that blew me in mind, but it did.
Sure.
Like it was just like there's not even a platform there. How is he getting up? Like
because he's Batman.
Yeah,
it's great.
Oh man, I don't. As we go into the movie, can you think of just real quick? Can you think of a character that you'd like them to do well for a video game?
I wouldn't mind another Hulk, despite the fact they've already done that.
Yeah, we talked about that would be nice.
Well, but that doesn't count. Let's go with someone they haven't done. That Wolverine game came close. That was pretty good but I think the standout to me was it was sad because it was kind of based on the X-Men Origins movie. Yeah. But the health bar was like you falling apart. Like you're like an adamantium skeleton if you're about to die, and then your skin grew back, and that was cool. Boy, who would I want? Doctor Strange. I wouldn't mind a Doctor Strange game, and like it's almost like
kind of like Skyrim-y, where you get like all those different spells.
Yeah, that'd be fun. All the spells you learn and master, and just the physics bending of the world would just be. I'd eat popcorn and watch that, and then realize I'm playing, and that'd be fun. I wouldn't mind that.
Our producer has put in Dragon Age of Doctor Strange into the chat, and I think I would agree, and I would like to see that T-shirt, please.
Dane.
Oh no. I asked this question and I wasn't sure what my response was, so I'll just go with kind of maybe not the best, but one that I was thinking about earlier today, and that's Iron Man. Start because it's so good for like upgrades. And like also being a kind of like an RPG where you can choose kind of what kind of suits to upgrade and how to upgrade them, and eventually having like multiple suits come out, and I just really like the mechanics and then of like flying and things like that. I've never seen a game do flying really well, because I imagine it's too much of a cheat.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough for the game world to work around it. Spider-Man kind of shows what you would need, but then even then you run out of room real quick. I think as technology gets better, there was a couple. So there's the current Avengers game, which
but I said not just exists. But
well, I was just trying to think of like Iron Man games, like because that does get the variety of gadgets right. And the VR game is actually pretty cool too. That gives you the sensation of flying. It's just a way of combining those elements. That's kind of eluded us. I remember being so mad at Superman games. They could never do a Superman game right when we were kids, because Superman 64 was their attempt at getting the flying down, and we saw how that went. Kryptonite fog. Damn it.
just we're gonna end there. Just Ron wistfully thinking about kryptonite fog with anger in his heart.
Just Vietnam flashback.
Oh no, that was our Vietnam.
My God,
Superman 64. All right, everybody. Okay, everybody. That's gonna wrap up this segment. We're gonna go into the final segment, the probably the only reason you're here. We're going to go into our feature presentation. Hey, here we are. We're talking about Assault on Arkham. I want to start off the bat and say I liked this movie a lot more than I thought I would, but also a little less than I hoped I would.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I haven't kept up. There's a lot. The DC movies are always like, I think the last adaptation I watched was Killing Joke. And I've been meaning to watch Red Sun and their takes on Wonder Woman. There's a standalone Wonder Woman that I heard was amazing after 1984 was not. That I kind of wanted to go and revisit.
Fighting words, Ron.
Oh, and I just bought the new one that came out today. The adaptation of Halloween. The Long Halloween.
Okay,
is that right? That's not right.
I think so.
I just bought the damn thing. So I'm looking forward to that. It looks very good. And so yeah, the Long Halloween, it's part 1 and part 2, and the animation style in that is great. So I gotta say a couple caveats. I'll come out with my criticisms first. I wasn't too impressed with the animation, and
looked a little cheap. They definitely were on a budget.
Just the dropped frame nature of it. The character designs are cool. Harley Quinn again as a standout. Amanda Waller, is that her name? Yeah, like she is this
CCH Pounder.
CCH Pounder. The voice cast was excellent. Everyone here did a good job. I really thought Mark Hamill was the Joker. I didn't realize that was Troy Baker. So he did a good impression of Mark Hamill, for lack of. I'll say the only negative that really gnawed at me is just the aesthetic choice of showing Batman's pupils in the white. For some reason, I mean, I know that's nitpicky, but that bothered me really bad. Every time he was on screen, I'm like, I don't need to see his eyes darting around. Like when he's got the mask on, you got to have that white out. Like, I don't know. And I get what they're going for, is like a realistic approach to showing his eye, and then it would light up when he was doing stuff. I think his gadgets were a little extreme. The built-in lie detector and like DNA scanning vision was a little much. I know he's Batman, but I don't know. That was a little cartoony. It's interesting that they seem to cater to needing a PG-13 rating, despite being pretty violent. We had decapitations and bloody punch fests, and I don't know. But yeah, go ahead and lay out the story for the people who may not.
Yeah. So as we mentioned earlier, there's not plot-wise. I mean, there's not a huge amount to say. It's basically standard Suicide Squad stuff. They've got a problem in Arkham City. They need the Suicide Squad to go in there and maybe be killed, because that's kind of the premise of that. And so they need to storm into Arkham to kind of stop. The initial is to kill the Riddler.
The Riddler's got a thumb drive in his cane.
Yeah.
And now, did I miss the double cross there? Because they open the cane and that's empty, and then we don't really talk about the thumb drive again. Was that just a red herring?
There's like 8 double crosses in here. I think it's a red herring, because the reason they want the Riddler dead is that he knows how to
so that's all it was. He knew how to disable
their neck bombs, which
sadly doesn't work for King Shark. But I mean, he is a big guy.
And
I kept
then
confusing him with Killer Croc, because he really did not look like a shark. His design was kind of odd.
They did a weird thing. It did seem like they were kind of combining those two characters a little bit. And then you get another twist where, like, once Joker's free, he, like, for some reason they stored his bombs at Arkham as evidence, I guess, and then he, like, reactivates it because that's what happens, I guess. Like, either he had mailed it there and nobody knew. It was unclear to me why they were there.
No, it's funny.
My cartoony element.
My brain makes excuses for that. Like, he had inside cronies.
Okay.
Like, whatever. Like, that's covered up because it was in her mallet. Whatever. It wasn't checked or scanned for whatever reason. But then when, like, Killer Frost goes to the X-ray machine, they're like, oh, this is a dead body because she's cold. I'm like, wait, she's got a bomb in her neck and all these implants that are metal. Wouldn't that? All right, I don't know why I got hung up on that detail.
There's a lot.
Cartoon.
But I mean, like, it's a cartoon, but like the DC cartoons have been this kind of pedigree where like
Sure.
DC's terrible or good, I guess sometimes, but mostly terrible at their live action unless it's Batman. And
But the animation,
but
not
like
so much.
really amazing animation. Up like starting with Batman and the Mask of the Phantom or the something.
Mask of the Phantasm was
Yeah,
excellent.
Mask of
I
the
saw that in the
Phantasm,
theater.
like
Yeah.
awesome movie. Still a great movie, really. I watched it recently, and then I saw Under the Red Hood. I think
That's a good one
and that
too.
was also a great one. Like just so many DC animated stuff, and like even and their like TV is great too. So I don't know what their movie division's doing that the other stuff isn't working.
Yeah.
And then thank you, Aaron. Staple of your and I and hopefully everyone's childhood, Batman the Animated Series.
Oh.
Just like absolute fantastic, like
So good.
still good, great to watch. Like
I never
that
I-
Clayface episode is gonna stick with me
Clayface
forever.
is amazing. God, I've always wanted him to be done live action, but I'm glad they haven't attempted because they screw it up. But that storyline and the animated was so damn good, and everything with Ra's al Ghul was a favorite too. Yeah, it's one of my favorites
This is
about
where you
HBO
got-
Max collecting all of those. Like I love that's all available on there.
And just getting like Mark Hamill's Joker, who he's not in this, but as we've said, is clearly the guy's doing an homage to him. Is just trying to like.
I mean,
mimic
anyone
him.
who attempts it going forward, they're always going to be judged against his performance.
Yeah.
Even more so than Nicholson and Ledger. I mean, it's so iconic. You can't help but think of Mark Hamill when it comes to the Joker, and it's almost kind of a bummer because I'm really looking forward to him playing Skeletor, but all I hear is his Joker in that. So I'm worried that's kind of going to have the inverse effect on that one. But whatever. It's great.
It's hard that that has become so iconic. So even if he modulates it a little bit, it's just like that's just a gruffer Joker, or that's just an English Joker or whatever it is. But it's weird is Mark Hamill does other voices. He's and if you don't know it's Mark Hamill, you would be surprised. I remember being surprised when I found out that the Joker was Mark Hamill.
Oh yeah,
I don't think I ever
6
watched
years
it.
after. I mean, it wasn't. I wasn't on IMDb as a kid, so it wasn't really apparent to me. But I do remember finding out and going, "What? Luke Skywalker's Joker?"
I didn't know this until I looked into it, but apparently they'd originally cast Tim Curry.
That'd have been cool.
But for some reason it just wasn't working, so they recast Mark Hamill. And I wonder if did you just cast Tim Curry because of Pennywise? Is that
probably? I mean, it lines up. Those are both at the same time.
So I don't know. So we were talking about these cartoony elements, but then it's kind of contrasted with this extreme violence. People's heads blow off, like you were saying. Killer shark, I think, chopped somebody in half or something. Maybe I'm messing up DC properties, but he murders somebody pretty good. And then also his head blows off too. So
I thought that was pretty cool. That was a nice story element. When he dies, you don't expect him to die, and then the whole twist with was it Black Spider in the Batman? I mean, right away it's not Batman because he's limping and looks hurt. But I like the kind of twist with that.
But then also the other adult element of they don't linger on it, but there is clearly two human adults engaging in sexual activity in it with Deadshot.
That's from
Harley
New 52,
Quinn.
I think. I think they hook up in the comics as well. So
and then of course she goes back to him because it has to match continuity with the game.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a bummer because if you contextualize it with Birds of Prey, you're like, oh, don't go back to the Joker, Harley. Come on, it can be so much better. And not just that, because I talked earlier about watching the Harley Quinn show on HBO Max.
I was just about to bring that up. Yeah,
and that's the best thing I've ever seen. That thing's fantastic.
Good. That's the thing. It's the adult elements. None of this is really shocking because that show's so deftly handled being shocking and funny and gory as hell.
Yeah.
But not for gratuity's sake. It was just, I don't know. It was
it is
really
one of those
well. I really like that show a lot.
That show matches its tone, and
it knows what it is.
This
completely.
doesn't. I think it's clear that one, they didn't have a lot of money, or at least enough money to really polish it up. And they were trying to balance these tones between adult, but also for people who are playing the video game,
Mm-hmm.
but also try and cross over, and like so it feels a little squidgy on the edges.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about in terms of this movie?
No, I mean,
Did you like anything like particular?
I said it was very nitpicky, the things that bugged me.
Mhm.
Just on an aesthetic level, story wise, obviously much better than the live action Suicide Squad that we got. Very pacing wise. I mean, it was barely a buck 15, right? It was like an hour and
Oh,
15 minutes.
yeah, it was like
It was,
over and done with pretty quick.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
really quick. I'd watch a follow up. I just again like I'd have to dock points for the budget looking like it wasn't there,
Mhm.
and I guess it served its purpose as being a connective tissue between this prequel game I haven't played, but then needing to line up with the beginning of the Arkham. Like his armor and the layout of Arkham, all of
Mhm.
those seem to be fairly accurate as
You
far
could.
as.
There were parts where I was just like they were drawing it, and I was just like, "That's just like the video game."
Right. I did that a couple of times because he throws his batarang into the floor at one point where there's a close up. I'm like, oh, that's exactly how it looks in the game.
But
Um,
it does feel kind of like a cheat where it's just like, yeah, but this doesn't have to tie into the video game at all. You're just saying it does, really. Like
so
all of this stuff, like I don't see anything that really echoes the game all that much or like
so
explains it. Maybe it's just been so long since I played it.
Aaron's got a good note, and I'll lay
Okay.
these points out. I think there really wasn't a plot as far as a device to get everyone together. So it was a very simple plot.
Yeah.
The character dynamics, though, and the characters chosen, I wasn't too familiar with Killer Frost. I thought she was a Mortal Kombat character, but she was interesting. A lot of the backstabbing and whatnot that happens there. I mean, the overall action looked okay, despite me thinking the animation really wasn't up to par. There's some good set pieces. A lot of things seemed to. It was interesting. A lot of the little elements that mirrored or referenced the first two Tim Burton Batmans, because I mean, the Penguin, it seems very thematically like how the Penguin's portrayed, sitting there eating fish and looking disgusting. When
See,
the
which was weird
helicopter,
because that's different than the games, like where he's
yeah, right. So it's
not my
weird
memory
for.
is he's portrayed that way.
Yeah, he's not really portrayed that way in the games. You're right. When the helicopter gets knocked off the building, it pulls the same kind of gargoyle down that is what happened in the end of the
Hmm.
'89 Batman. What else did I notice?
I mean, so the Joker is pulled out of a helicopter, which echoes, I think, but probably unintentionally because it hadn't come out yet. But that a similar thing happens in the Suicide Squad movie, I
Mhm.
think.
You're right.
So I don't know. It just felt like a big jumble. It was serving so many masters. Let me put it that way. It was serving so
Mhm.
many different elements that it feels like there's no center to it.
Mhm.
Like it just felt like people will watch it because Batman's in it, and we've got the Suicide Squad. I guess like.
And I never really considered Amanda Waller to be like a villain, and she's
Hmm.
portrayed that way in this one.
See, but that's what's interesting is like here and in the Arrow show and kind of in the Suicide Squad movie, she is straight up a villain. Like,
Yeah,
you
I mean,
know,
is that my? I guess I'm just like she's the government. She's like, which I guess I mean she is bad, but I don't know. I just never like I thought about her having her own agenda more so than
I
being
mean,
like a.
I think this is where you can see how the characters that the audience is supposed to be sympathetic for kind of set who the villain is. Because
Mhm.
like if you were hearing it probably from Amanda Waller's point of view, it's just like these are murderers.
Yeah,
These are horrible,
criminals.
unrepentant murderers.
Yeah.
Who cares what happens to them? Like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I mean, I still do. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, in cartoon characters, yeah, I see your point. But at the same time, since we're supposed to sympathize with, at least especially Deadshot and Harley Quinn, who are the ones who mainly are the ones who are characters. Everybody else
Mhm.
is kind of background.
Mhm.
You feel bad that their heads might blow off,
Mhm.
at least a little bit, just a small amount. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, what would you rate this? I guess what would our
So
rating
what
system
can we
be?
what should we get it? Let's give it out of king shark heads.
Perfect. Flying disembodied king shark jaw.
I would probably
plates.
go I would probably go about, I think, what kind of the consensus would be, and say it's like a 7.
Yeah, I'd say 7, almost 7.5. I feel nitpicky with my criticisms, but again, like just the Batman eye thing really bugged me. That was like my big takeaway. Was like, why am I seeing his pupils? That looks weird. And it could have been a little longer, and maybe I don't know. I mean, I like the way again a great cast. I think they were utilized well. Maybe they could have
Can I
had more filler. Or I don't know.
ask you this, if this makes sense? Because this is something I noticed. This, even though they're animated, the sets felt small and cramped.
Yeah,
Like
I know what you mean.
It didn't feel like, and generic. You know, like when they were in that electroshock area or whatever, trying to short wire the bombs, it just looked like a doctor's waiting room. Like,
I think
and it's just
part
like,
of
you're
that was-
animating this. Why does it look like this?
I think that's the part where they are a little slavishly devoted to the game layout. Even though the games felt big, I think they were going off of concept art or something. Like, oh, this is the room, and maybe they didn't get the dimensions as right, or maybe the dimensions for a game look silly in a movie, and they had to kind of compromise. I don't know, but a couple of those feel like they were straight from the game, and it was almost like, well, that's exactly how it looked in the game.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Oh, well. Okay, so that's going to wrap up this here episode. We want to thank everybody for listening. You can find our little old show on any of your favorite podcast applications. You can find us on YouTube. You can sing a song in your heart, and Ron will appear in your dreams. That is our guarantee. And that is also very creepy.
That was my phone on my foot. I kind of hurt a little bit.
We are professionals. That is what we do. And so...
yes, we are.
Yeah. Check us out on those platforms. Find us on Twitter. Find us on Facebook. We are at pixel_theater_ because why not? And we're also on Facebook. I'm almost positive we're the only Pixel Theater there.
So,
are you going to do your Batman impression? Do you want to
Yeah.
you want to get us out with our Batman?
I will see you guys next time. Make sure to stop by our merch store, which we don't have, but someday we will, because I'm Batman.
For those who can see the video, if you don't think that Ron looks exactly like Guillermo del Toro right now, you are wrong. You are a wrong person who is wrong all the time.
See, I have a good impression, but I feel like it's cultural.
The accent is dicey for you. Let me put it that way.
I'm not even going to do it. I'm not even going to do it. But I'm Guillermo del Toro.
Doing Batman.
There it is.
Yeah,
All
there
right.
we go.
All right, everybody.
Guillermo
Thank you so
Batman
much.
del Toro.
Have a fantastic day and a really, really super tomorrow. We'll see you later. Bye.
Bonesaw says goodbye.